I will now introduce the chair and co-chairs of the session. Chair of this session is Dr. Shantanu Sarkar. He is a chief scientist and group leader, Geotechnical Engineering Group, and professor ACSIR of CSIR Central Building Research Institute, Roorkee. His expertise is in engineering geology, slope stability, landslide disaster mitigation, RS and GIS applications in geohazards. He obtained his MSc in applied geology from IIT Roorkee, MTech in engineering geology from ISM, and PhD in earth sciences from IIT Roorkee, PG diploma in analysis and management of geological risks at the University of Geneva, Switzerland, postdoctoral research at EPFL Lausanne, Switzerland. He was awarded National Geoscience Award by Ministry of Mines, Government of India. And he has also got the Boyce-Kass Fellowship by DST. He has 32 years of professional experience in the area of engineering geology and landslide studies in the Himalayas. He published more than 100 publications in journals and conferences and several chapters in scientific books. So we welcome Dr. Sarkar for this session as chair.
Thank you.
And we have co-chair of the session, Dr. G. Kalyan Kumar. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at NIT Warangal. His expertise is in seismic hazard analysis, soil dynamics, earthquake engineering. He received PhD in 2010 from IIT Madras and worked as principal scientist at National Geotechnical Facility, Dehradun from 2010 to 2013. He published more than 25 national and international journal papers and book chapters. He guided 2 PhDs and currently 3 students are working under him for PhD. We welcome Dr. Kalyan Kumar as co-chair of the session. So now I'll hand over the stage to the chair and co-chair.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Raghuvir Rao, for introducing me. So, very good morning and welcome you all to the last day of the 7th Ukaraji conference, the morning session. And in this session, we have 2 eminent speakers with us. One is Dr. O.P. Mishra from Ministry, Seismology Fellow, Ministry of Earth Sciences, and Professor Bhumi Nathan from IIT Madras. Now, in this, we have 2 lectures, and this, I think it is 45 minutes each. So I'll request.
It is 30 minutes plus 5 minutes as the.
Yes, 5 minutes interactions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, welcome, Dr. Mishra.
Thank
After
you.
some time, we are interacting. So, I have the opportunity to introduce you as you have to speak on the topic of seismic macrogenesis of cities in India, a way forward for earthquake risk resilient structures. So, before you start, I will have a brief introduction of you. Dr. O.P. Mishra is a fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India, for his pioneering work in applied geophysics, seismology, disaster risk management, spanning over 30 years. Presently, Dr. Mishra is working as Scientist G and Program Head of Seismology and Earth Sciences with Ministry of Earth Sciences. He obtained his master's degree from IIT Dhanbad, now previously it was ISM Dhanbad, in applied geophysics. PhD and DSc from Geodynamics Research Center, AIM University, Japan. Dr. Mishra worked in IDRC, Canada during 1992 to 1995. He also served Geological Survey of India from 1995 to 2014. He headed SARC Disaster Management Center, New Delhi as the director. He was visiting as a professor from 2005 to 2006 at GRC, Japan on GSPS fellowship. He also represented SARC member states to several United Nations agencies. He has widely traveled to different countries in the world to execute flagship projects funded by the UNISDR and the World Bank for disaster risk resilience for South Asia. He is the recipient of several awards. Few of them are National Mineral Award 2008 for disaster risk management in applied geosciences, ASRJ Award 2014, Eni Talwani Medal 2015. Dr. Mishra has supervised and guided several students in his PhD and MTech program, including 10 scholars for PhD from various universities of India. He has more than 150 research publications on seismology, geophysics, earth sciences, disaster risk reduction, and peer-reviewed and international and national journal. So with this brief background, now I request Dr. Mishra, please deliver your invited lecture. Dr. Mishra, please.
Yeah, very good morning, eminent Mr. Chairman and co-chair, my all colleagues and the friends, also students who are attending this very important international symposium. I'm really thankful to the organizer, especially Professor Sitaramji and my friend Professor Jaka, who always behind me to give me topic and then you upload this, all that. I'm really sorry to be late, but I have taken a topic interestingly that it should have the implications to both engineers and scientists and city planners as well as policy planners, disaster managers. And we know this is a very pertinent and very flagship project for the country, and it has a successful story in abroad in the world. So I'll just a glimpse on that. So the topic is taken in accordingly in that way. So the question arises, why seismic microzonation? So the question is that seismic microzonation is one of the tools to reduce the impact of the earthquake shaking. But you can ask that impact of earthquake shaking can be reduced or the disaster can be mitigated by adopting so many measures. Either you predict or forecast the earthquake, or development of earthquake early warning system, or development of earthquake risk resilient structures and design. If you go for 1A and B, we found that with the present state of knowledge, the earthquake cannot be predicted nor be stopped because it is the natural processes. So only is equal to, if you go for the earthquake early warning system, it is also a matter is equal to a very fancy words, but we are not able to do a proper and comprehensive early warning system because it contains so many parameters. So now we are taking early warning only pre-arrival times. That means on the rupture initiated, then on the basis of pre-arrival time, we give the signal to the people. Okay, but there is other things. The magnitude is there, the depth is there, the intensity is there, the geotechnical settings are there. So maybe the earthquake occurs, can be attenuated, can be dissipated, or can be amplified. This type of the consideration is not taken in the instrumentation design till today. So just the information after occurrence of the earthquake, we are told that earthquake occurred. So it is not earthquake early warning, it is the post-earthquake early warning for disaster phases, which still we have not achieved. So A and B is discarded. And you may ask that the students can have curiosity that why it has not been done, because the earthquake genesis processes, that means physics of the earthquake generating processes, is still not adequately known by us. And because it involves so many parameters of the complex strata of the different strata of the earth. And we don't know that at what diagnostic property the earthquake can be predicted. So we have 10 or 20 or 100 diagnostic properties, but maybe 101 diagnostic property which is not known to us. So it varies from even the area to area, particular earthquake to earthquake. And we know the story of China earthquake in 1975. They predicted the Haicheng earthquake, and it was well predicted, but the same group of scientists just 150 kilometer, 250 kilometer, 150 to 150 kilometer away, Tangshan 1976, they did not able to predict that. So a story says that prediction is impossible. Earthquake early warning means post-earthquake early warning is in the process. So what to do that? We have to only one measure left with us, that is development of earthquake risk resilient structures and designs. That means let earthquake can be occurred in the particular area, or if the earthquake occurs, then how the structures is sufficient to take care of the structures. And predictions involve the anticipation, justification, and expectation. But in the third phase, we cannot able to predict the earthquake in terms of location, in terms of the reference to the precise location, size, and time. So that is the research is going on. That is under authentication. Anticipation, we have already demarcated the zone. Justify all the geotectonic setting, we are telling that this is earthquake prone zone. Expectation, we can also base on the recurrence interval, or you can also on the basis of the how much energy accumulated for how many years in a particular tectonic zone. So you can expect it with reference to, without reference to precise location, size, and time, but authentication left. That's why we're not able to do that. And there is a lot of the disasters happening to the infrastructure and structures. This is just 2005 Muzaffarabad earthquake. That is the Kashmir earthquake. You can see that so many structures get damaged. And this is the well-built structure, school building where the student going to school is killed all of the sudden. So you can say that about 100,000 people dead mostly in the Pakistan, that is in Pak occupied Kashmir, due to the occurrence of 2005 7.9 earthquake, 7.8 earthquake. So if you go for this in the Chichi, I am not going to show you the main disasters images of the India, because you know that we have not so much a stronger earthquake risk resilient structure. But this country is supposed to, the China, Taiwan and China, even Japan, I'm going to show you the story. They are very much developed state to, with respect to the developing of their building design code. So this Chichi was actually designed on the basis of taken all care, but Chichi 1999 earthquake is also able to damage the infrastructure, vital structure, that is dam. So this indicates that earthquake never respects the geographical boundary and it can hit anywhere at any point of time. So in these cases, I just borrowed the slides from the Professor Raghu Khan. He recently made a very, very comprehensive analysis, and he showed that a total events of about more than the 68,000 and different of the magnitudes, the entire is equal to entire Indian subcontinent regions are equal to are associated with the earthquake. Particularly in India, none of the part of the India is devoid of the earthquakes. So it justifies that earthquake can hit in anywhere. So earlier geological studies telling that some part is the devoid of the earthquake, but there is no such type of the zone in the India. This indicates that, or this demands that we have to have a proper mechanism to, we have to know how to coexist with the earthquake occurrences, because India is one of the biggest or one of the important hotspot of the earthquake occurrences, because we are surrounded by the collisional and seismotectonic zone in the north, that is the Himalayan zone, and also in the south you can go for the Andaman Nicobar region where the subduction tectonics which is going on, and we have seen that these are the most prone zones. Not only that, if you come to the intraplate zone, there is the Bhuj earthquake, we have the 2001, earlier there was the Kutch earthquake 1819. There is a series of the earthquake occur in also in the plate interior, and Latur in the 1993 is one of them. So even the lower magnitude occurred in the Latur of nearing the 6th magnitude. There are the huge disasters, and there was the loss of the lives about 20,000 of the people, 10,000 of people in Latur, and the Bhuj there were 20,000 of people. So many structures damages. So this gives us the idea that our geoscientists, the engineers, seismotectonics, all they made, and they make a seismic zonation map of the country, and this zonation map is best is equal to an attenuation law. So they divided the zone 2 to 5 because one zone and two zone has the same behavior. So they categorize into low risk zone, moderate risk zone, high seismic risk zone, and very high risk zone, depending on the intensity and ground acceleration. But it has some factors compromised, and we need that if seismic hazard zonation map is correct, then there was no need there is no need of the seismic microzonation or is equal to a particular city or particular area. What is actually the compromising factor is that you can imagine that take a particular zone 3 or 4, and if the almost all buildings are made on the same design by the same architect, same design, same engineers, and using the same materials, means every parameters of the designing and the architecture and the material used in the entire building of the zone 4, then a particular earthquake of magnitude of particular depth occurs, then entire building should be damaged, the same is equal to same damaging pattern. But it was found that it does not follow that type of the thumb rule. So that means why? It is found that a very dilapidated structure near to the source zone is found to be a standstill. There is no disasters, or there is no erasing to that structure nearing to the source to the ground. But if you are going away, a very well built structure, you found that the structure raised to the ground. That means there is some geotechnical factors or some equal to some factors of the related to the geotectonics which is not taken into account in the seismic hazard zonation map. We have taken a maximum credible earthquake, known is equal to epicentral distance, and then we is equal to do a probabilistic analysis to do this. And on this way, there is a lot of the probabilistic analysis in 189 to 2016 seismic zonation map, and PGA contours they made, and they found that the peak ground acceleration varying from zone 2 to zone 4 accordingly. So more than 0.36 zone, 0.36 G is your zone in your zone 5, and similarly 0.16 to 0.18 zone in the zone 2. So this type of the things they haven't taken place. But this was just equal to a crude analysis so far done by the earlier studies, which is not actually the controlling or telling about how the disasters can be mitigated if the infrastructure structures can be made. So if you see this structure, I am just going to show you this cartoon. And this is my very favorite cartoon. You can see that for the students I put it, that if the earthquake occurs, the impact of earthquake setting in all four trees is found to be different. Though it is very closely spaced, so there is no impact on this is equal to first tree, but there is impact on in all three trees. One tree is falling down, two trees felt the shaking, but they didn't fell down to the ground. What does it mean? That means that the foundational material which has coupling to the root of the each and every tree here showing is different. So geomechanical strength of the foundational material is playing the role that can have amplification at a predominant frequency. And that is the main concern we have to deal with by using the seismic microresonance technique. And you can see that the physics says that if it is the basement, means harder rock, the earthquake occur here, then there is no much amplifications because it is the harder rock, right? But if this earthquake passing through from the harder rock to the softer materials, that is deep sediments, then you found that there is a significant amplification of seismic wave, and that's why they started to create a trouble on the structure, and it will collapse if the shaking frequency matches to the spectral structure frequency. Then it will be collapsed and the structure happens. So that is the philosophy of the seismic microresonance. So seismic microresonance is subdividing a zone into a smaller areas having different potential for hazardous earthquake, and the earthquake effects depend on the ground geomorphological attributes consisting of the geological, geomorphological, and equal to other factors. So the parameters of the geology and is equal to geomorphology of soil coverage thickness and the rock outcrop depth are equal to some of the important geomorphological attributes which can be addressed in the seismic microresonance study. Other attributes are the earthquake parameters, which are estimated by the hazard analysis and effect of the local soil, or is equal to for site responses or earthquakes, which I wanted to mean that the shear wave velocity or the response spectra, I want to see that. And peak ground acceleration from the deterministic or probabilistic approach, amplification and site response parameter, liquefaction potential. If this zone is in the landslide zone, then we have to see the landslides, effect or sinking zone due to earthquakes, or is equal to it was the earthquake induced landslide zone is not. That was just like in Himalaya. So some of the important seismological attributes have been taken into consideration for the seismic microresonance. Since I am in the Ministry of Earth Sciences, being a director of the National Center of Seismology, so I would like to give you some information about subsequent how this concept evolved in the country. So National Disaster Management Authority has taken a leading role for that to provide or to sensitize the scientific and engineering community to come forward to provide a yardstick for the proper earthquake risk management. So National Core Group of the Earthquake Risk Mitigation has been formed. An urban earthquake vulnerability reduction project has been initiated in 30 cities in seismic and 30 seismic zone, about 38 cities and cities in seismic zone, and 3 to 4 and 5 with more than 500,000 population. That means we are taking a zone 3, 4 and 5 having population more than 50 lakhs, means 500,000. So we choose that city, and earthquake safe construction guideline for masonry buildings in different zones have been provided. Review of the buildings bylaws and everything is analyzed in those meetings. Retrofitting for the lifeline buildings, I would like to give my humble tribute to Professor Arya, who were also in the leading role as chairman of this committee. So retrofitting a lifeline building, including earthquake safety analysis, lifeline buildings in Delhi has been initiated, and various national level training, education programs, capacity building programs, risk resilient construction have been initiated. Roorkee IIT is playing an important role. Earthquake engineering department, civil engineering department, they're playing the role, and they were also the part of the sensitizing the training program, trainer for trainees through the South Asia Disaster Management Center. And I was leading. I have already witnessed the 3 to 4 training program by earthquake engineering department of the Roorkee. So National Earthquake Risk Mitigation Project has been initiated, and National School Safety Program has been initiated. Then the first attempt of seismic microresonance of any urban area, industrial as well as population center, was first to carried out in the world in Japan. So we are borrowing most of the technique from Japan, because Japan has given a very successful story, proven track record that they have proved that in the 2011, in the 11th March tsunami-genic earthquake of 9 magnitude, did not cause any damage to the structure of Sendai city. That means it proved that if the building design code will be sanguine, it was as per the code, it was as per taking all parameters, then we can mitigate the loss of the buildings and the loss of the lives. So we can take in this, and general methodology during the seismic microgeneration region can be divided into 4 major categories. Just the ground motions parameters we are using, site characterization we are doing, assessment of local site effects which includes so many like amplification factors, predominant frequency, liquefaction, hazard lines, tsunami, and preparation of the seismic microgeneration map based on the GIS, geographical information system-based map, so that it can be friendly user or the planners and city planners and user and policy making planners, they can use and they can assimilate their conclusions for that. So it is a very complicated process because you are dealing with the complicated impact of the earthquakes. That's why the seismic microgenesions provided a holistic framework that consists of the seismological investigations, geological and geotechnical investigations, and thematic integrations. And then after doing that, we have to give the output in ground peak acceleration, liquefaction potential, geology and geomorphological implications, overall risk, and the population-based risk and structural based risk we estimate. So what happens in the NCS, seismic microgeneration report on NCR Delhi has already been done by, but I would like to mention that we have a SOP, that is Manual of the Seismic Microgeneration and Handbook of Seismic Microgeneration for the country. It was approved by the Hyper Committee, and this is actually SOP which is followed by NCS, Ministry of Earth Sciences, for each and every city. So initially we have taken the first phase 30 cities with the entire budget of the 90 crores, and we have floated a global tender to get the best physical to brain, best technical solutions for that, and 4 cities were selected, where IIC Bangalore with the second involved, and another city they are doing with the Bhubaneswar, Mangalore, and Coimbatore, and Fugro is doing the detailed seismic microgeneration of Chennai city according to the SOP. So seismic microgeneration report of Delhi so far has been released, and it was being used by the Delhi Municipal Corporation, Delhi Management Authority, Delhi Disaster Management Authority. We circulated the report. It is also on the website. We also released the report on Calcutta, and some regional reports of Sikkim, Guwahati, Jabalpur, Bengaluru, Gandhidham, Kandala, Ahmedabad. It has been done on a sponsorship of the Ministry of Earth Sciences by the different institutions. And then the RFP, we have to detailed geophysical, geotechnical investigation floated in 2016, but 2017-18 we able to select the 4 cities as I mentioned you by the ISC Bangalore and SECON in collaboration they are doing, and the Fugro is doing with some IIT their partner. So geophysical and geotechnical investigation 30 cities, Kolkata completed. Jammu is under investigation through our program appraisal monitoring committee of the university. So among the 30 cities, we are now 12 cities we are completing, we are under process. 1 city, 2 cities has already been done, 2 cities on PAMC. So remaining 14 cities have to done. So this is the microgeneration cities we have plotted you that in the zone wise, and some is equal to some zones which has been already done is showing that which cities has been already done. Okay. So come to this the future planning. We have already, you can see that already started undergoing in this line of the gray line, and this is the light blue line we are doing. So cities of the under microgenations are still left, that is 14 cities on this by 22-24 we are going to do by the institutional partner with the NCS. So what parameter we are doing in seismic microgeneration? Geophysical and seismological parameters as per SOP, microtremor survey we are doing in the grid of very close grid, 500 meter by 500 meter. Downhole shear wave velocity testing we are doing at each and every site. So conducted 10% of the total number of the drill sites, we are doing the DHT test. Multi-channel analysis of the Maswaj is also doing, conducted by 25% of total number of the drill sites. So each drill site decided in number of the grids. So total number of the grids, how many 500 by 500 were taken, and out of that grid we are taking the SPT survey of the 10%, and SPT, SCPT and DCPT were also doing to find out all geotechnical parameters that can be helpful to understand the geomechanical strength of the subsurface materials. So a standard penetration test is to be conducted. 10 numbers of the boreholes per site in 3-meter interval, and seismic cone penetration is there. I would like to mention you that in your high-level technical committee, Professor Ravi Jaka is one of the member, and Professor Ramana is there as a chairman. And we are getting a lot of good feedback, and we are on verge of the completion of the 4 cities. Rigorous flaws we are detecting, and they are repeating, and good quality of the data is being generated. Because good quality of the data is good quality of the report, we will be able to generate that. So cyclic triaxial test we are also doing for the selected specimen. Resonant column test is also doing to corroborate that. And so many tests, we are all geoscientists, geotechnical engineers. So bulk density we are doing, specific gravity doing, natural water content doing to find out actually the weak intrusive materials, whether really the compositions of the soil at the foundation layer is apt for installing or constructing a very strong building for the purpose or not. Because there is the vital installations, there is a critical installations infrastructures. We have to take all the parameters of the city and also in the future plan of the development. So we're doing all the geotechnical parameters estimates for this. And you may ask that geophysical investigation, what to do? I mentioned microtremor is give you an idea of the ambient vibrations to find out where the amplification taking place and where the at what predominant frequency. And this is actually the first material which guides us that where borehole to be drilled. So if the high amplification zone we are doing, moderate amplification we are also doing the drilling for SPT test, and also the low amplification, that means the very high frequency predominant there, we are very low predominant frequency, we are also doing that. So all 3 categories are taking place. Downhole test we are doing for the shearing wave velocity at the very close space, and mass balls is also taking to corroborate our stiffness of the ground of the geotechnical engineering purposes. So if you come for all the tests, because it is a very preliminary, so I will just give you the glimpse that the seismic cone penetration test is an effective method for directly measuring the shear wave velocity of soils in situ, because SPT is giving the empirical correlations derived between the soil properties and the penetration resistance, but SPT giving the further information. And dynamic cone penetration test, DCPT, is used to measure the strength of the in situ soil and the thickness and the location of subsurface soil layers. So you can see that how we are trying to peep inside the subsurface material heterogeneity that can give us the idea that during the earthquake shaking, how the amplification can take place, or how the attenuation of the energy can take place depending on the material competency or material stiffness coefficient. So and similarly, the triaxial test we have been conducted by this load control technique to result used for the evaluating the ability of the soil to resist shear stress included in soil and mass due to the earthquake and other cyclic loading. We have to find out that how is equal to how is stronger the earthquake and how much heavier structure it can hold on that foundation. So comparatively, the resonant column test for the torsional and longitudinal vibration sample is also used, solving the equation of the wave propagation using the theory of elasticity. And Attenborough limit is the basic measure of the critical water content of the fine-grained soil, so that it can be shrinkage limit and plastic limit and liquid limit can also be ascertained. So these are the very comprehensive tools to find out the geotechnical behavior. At the same time, you find out the compositional aspect on the terms of the bulk density and its specific gravity, so that we can find out that whether there is the intrusive material, where there is the fluid intrusions are there, where it is the fluid fractured rock matrix is there in the rock material or not. So all these things we are doing by applying the geotechnical investigations and coefficient of the consolidations, complete grain size analysis, and direct shear wave we are doing. So result of seismic microgeneration for city of the Coimbatore, which is under process, we are going to show you that these are the actually geological map of the Coimbatore city, and this is geomorphological map of the city of the Coimbatore. You can see that there is a lot of the lithological variations, about 10 to 12 lithological variations in the city, and different compositions of even the clay and the gneiss, and so many the geologists can be mapped by the geologist. Geomorphological see, you can also do about 10 geomorphological strata, you are able to get it. So under these conditions, we have to get the seismic microgenesis of the cities, and by taking the one map and creating all the available faults in the city, the lineaments in the city, because the earth is a factory of faults, and so many geological structural defects. So we found out that, and then we make a grid. You can see the 500 so close grids we have taken. So none of the part is left. Every part is well covered by applying the geophysical, geological, seismological, and geotechnical survey for the city. By doing that, we've taken the Coimbatore city is 260.217 square kilometer, and we create the H by V ratios, find the field survey, and this is the field survey. We are going that and measuring for each and every point, and doing that, we able to get a predominant frequency and found that higher peak predominant frequency corroborate with the higher formations of higher or stronger geological formations, while the lower is equal to predominant frequency is corroborated with the weaker is equal to geological formations. And these are actually the guideline to go for the drilling. And simply amplification map, it is also corroborating where is the high predominant frequency. You can see the least is equal to amplifications, and there is the least is equal to frequency, there is the high is equal to amplification. So there is a very much good correlations, and we are able to do the drilling. The work is going on, so we are not able to assimilate the map, but this is the field observation we have seen for undergoing city. In Delhi city, which is already completed, we have just snap. It is although it is in the website of the NCS on MOES, the peak ground acceleration of the engineering bedrock. We plotted and got this each and every city, and we found that the variability, that how is equal to how it is the taking place of the engineering bedrock of the Delhi city. Again, we found out the hazard index map of the Delhi city, which is used by the planners, and it is also based on the almost all applying the techniques to find out the Jamuna rivers. It is so much hazardous. It is just the blue curvy line in Jamuna, and it is associated with the very high hazard index 0.6 to 0.84, which that means greater than 0.6 is the high hazard zones. And there is already package in Delhi, so many packets of the Delhi, which is the high hazard zones, and this is the moderate type 0.2 to 0.04, moderate type of the green zones are there. These are the most important factor for the engineers and the town planners they are using, and now the BIS is using this type of the concept that we can have a very seismic prompt the hazard zonation map for the city. So application of the seismic hazard zonation map is earthquake risk resilient dwellings. You know that earthquake risk resilient vital structures, Rashtrapati Bhavan, Red Fort, and all India Gate, Taj Mahal, we are all taking the city. Now we are extending to a smart cities also. So earthquake risk resilient critical structure, dam and bridges, roads. This will help to find out the very earthquake risk resilient infrastructures and generated for the NCS, and it can be the inputs for generating the seismic hazard risk resilient model for the city where the microgenation has been done. So you may ask that how it contribute to the disaster risk management. You know that the disaster has a cycle, that pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster. But if you divide these disasters in a just a section by 50%, means post-disaster and pre-disaster. So post-disaster, we don't know post-disaster how bigger will be the earthquake and how greater impacts will be there. So it is mostly the post-disaster measure is uncertain. But pre-disaster measure in which the microgenation or the building design code, it is there. So if you will prepare before, that 50% marks you are getting, so you must be passed. But this 50% marks, you will zero. Sometimes your preparation is not up to the mark, and the earthquake impact is havoc. So you cannot give the guarantee that the post-disaster risk management is able to reduce or mitigate your disaster impact. But in the pre-disaster measures, that is your prevention and precautions engineering solution, if you adopt it, then you can sure that we can mitigate at least 50% to the 50% chances of the disaster. At least more than that is quite possible. So it depends on that how good you are using the technique. So future strategy for so many parameters we have been taken, that it is the integrated parameters, so that you can have a proper evaluations of our data, proper the practices can be used. Even we are taking the conventional practices and good practices, and then we can generate a model so that we can have a very good resilient map for the city. And therefore, if the seismic microgenation delivered product can be used in the earthquake resilient model by the new structure, and if this is the old structure, it can be retrofitted as suggested by so many documents. Professor Aya has developed a document of rapid response of the building, inspection and scanning of the building, and then you can do the old building. He tried also in the Jammu, the hospitals, and it was successful. So if you do that, you can sustainable risk resilient setup, and we can have a safety of the school, safety of the hospital, safety of the prisons. because if there is a prison, the prisoners will come out on the disasters, it will another chaos. Okay, so safety to the vital installation, safety to infrastructures, economic prosperity of the area will be certain because recurrence losses will be reduced if our infrastructures will be the earthquake risk resilient. The social chaos, earthquake and trauma management is also helpful because you can say that, you can say with just a light story. When I was in Japan in 2000, Totori earthquake happened, I started to fade away. My professor caught my hand and he told that, okay, please enjoy the shaking of the earthquake. I was telling that this is crazy, but he told that, no, I know that this is equal to building is resilient to the magnitude 8 earthquake, and this area is not going to generate the magnitude more than 8 earthquake, and that earthquake magnitude is 6.9. So you can say that how sanguine, how engineer and the professors, museums, technocrats, scientists can able to convince their model if it is the almost all augmented with interdisciplinary science. So concluding remark is that recent earthquake in Indian subcontinent have demonstrated explicit terms that there is still to do. And because the seismic zone 4, 5, and 3 constitute about more than 56% of the country area. So seismic hazard zonation is a crude zonation which can give you idea. So you can do that zonification of the zones further for more comprehensive and cohesive seismic zonation map, micro zonation map for the better structures. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for such a wonderful talk on seismic microzonation. In a so short time, you have touched upon all the input parameters which are necessary for seismic microzonation. Particularly, it is very interesting to know in our country what is the future program. So thank you very much. Before I give this, I request Dr. Kalyan to see how many questions we have. I just want to ask or want to know from Dr. Mishra that for seismic microzonation in Himalayas particularly, because that landslides and slope, landslide is one of the most critical input because most of the damages are created by earthquake triggered landslide, as we have seen also in a recent 2017 Sikkim earthquake. So what do you think that for Himalayans, the cities, on which scale we should go for seismic microzonation, as you have handled so many projects?
I think, the seismic microzonation tells that it was the as precise, as smaller scale as possible. So today is microzonation, tomorrow maybe the picozonation or femtozonations or nanozonation. So in the today 500, you can see the 1:10,000 the scale we are doing the microzonations of the city. 1:25,000 we are doing city. But Himalaya is too risky, but terrain is not allowing too much. So I think at least 1:25,000 scale we have to do for that. But if allowed in the some areas, which is the plain area or the plateau area, we can go for the 1:10,000. So it is the most important. And landslide is taken into account for the Himalayan. Without landslide consideration, the seismic microzonation in the Himalayan areas it is incomplete. And you rightly mentioned that this is the taken that landslide sinking zone and landslide zone we have to take into account, because there is the rain-induced landslide also, there is the earthquake-induced landslides also. So they are making that I told in Geological Survey of India to make archive that which is the landslide associated with the rain-induced and which landslide is associated with the earthquake-induced. Then it will be better to understand that where the the processes will be used. And you are the landslide expert. I think this is the most important ingredient for the Himalayan city. We are planning for that, and I think to take all the view so that the country can have a very good.
Actually, why I ask you, because that in the earthquake-induced landslide, most of the landslides are rock fall, because jointed rock. So 1:25,000 is difficult to map all this. So probably we should go for 1:10,000. That's what is my this thing. So I thought that because you are sitting in you are handling so many projects. So you may take this thing that if we can increase at least in the major cities.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. Okay. So now, Dr. Kalyan, I request you to please handle conduct this question answer session quickly.
Sir, good morning, sir. Very good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, very nice lecture, sir. It is very much useful to the practicing engineers and locally education people and all the people, everything. Why the microzonation is required and all those things. And the question answers point of view, some good number of questions are there. So that is why I am not going to take that. We are going to share your email IDs to the participants, and they are going to contact with you, sir. Some
Okay.
question, one or two questions from my side, sir. So for the microgenation point of view, as I am in the southern India from Telangana, so I am insisting my students to do the PSHA analysis for the Warangal city. So it is better to take the 300 kilometer circular region or 500 kilometers, sir?
Oh, that depends that whether the geological faults are there in that zone or not. If the known faults are there, you can extend that. But if there is no known faults, you can have a very closer spacing. Okay. So always closer spacing is good for you. Okay. So you have to take the geological considerations of the area in Telangana, because geomorphology, geology is must studied prior to going to the investigation. So it dictates that where your circle will increase.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more question, sir, for the zoning point of view. And what is the criteria we have to select for the zoning point of view, sir? Because I gone through the NDMA reports and all those things. They divided into n number of zones. But what is the criteria for behind that one? They didn't discuss it about that one. They didn't put a word.
Yeah. It is a very good question. You have seen the last map I shown in Delhi. There is a hazard index map, right? This hazard index map taken care of the PGA, liquefaction potentials, amplification site, and predominant frequency, means the vulnerability aspect they have taken. So based on not only the PGA, based on the PGA liquefaction potential and also the soil stiffness coefficients, we have to take all the idea that which zone is most vulnerable. So it should not be based on one parameters. We have taken the many parameter as an integration, and then we have given a composite hazard index map. Okay. So the hazard donation map, you have taken the PGA map and recurrence interval, peak ground acceleration, we are telling okay. But peak ground acceleration has attenuative, some type of the compromise there. So liquefaction, sometimes it was not catched by, you cannot be analyze the potential, liquefaction potential of peak ground acceleration type of thing. So I think it is the composite of all parameters, whatever you measure. I have given, I share my slides to all of you. So these slides I have taken that so many parameters, why you are measuring. So out of these parameters, you make a composite, that weightage. We have to give the weightage. Okay. On weightage basis, you can do the scale zoning map. So let it be the zone 4 to zone 5 in the country, but in microgenation, it could be many zones depending on the conditions of the soil or stiffness coefficient, its own behavior. So one zone can have n number of the zones, whether you want what you want. Suppose in the building, you have one house. You have to make a zone of your corner that if the earthquake happen, which corner is going to damage first? Which part of my house is going to damage first? So preciseness depends on composite factor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I am going hand over to our Sarkar sir, because the questionnaire point of view will communicate with the Singh sir directly.
Okay.
So many number of questions are there.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarkar Saab. It is my pleasure that we saw each other on the cyber. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
I am really wishing all the best. This is international symposium. It was really well advertised, well broadcasted. It is very good and very good reputations. Thanks to you all, and I'm very happy to be part of that. So because without engineer support, the scientific science out inputs or outputs cannot be translated into technology. So technology implication and engineering, I think I need all the help from you. NCS will be always in close contact with all the engineers. NDMA and BIS also we are a member of that. So work in coordination. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So please excuse, I leave because I have one meeting, another meeting. So I ask my excuse from you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajiv, on behalf of organizing committee.
Thank you.